Hey everybody, how's it going? I hope you're having a lovely day. Today I would like to go over tipping. I've had a video, it was a rant on tipping a while ago, and there were a lot of misconceptions in the comment section of that video, so I thought I should go over it in its own dedicated video. When do I think tipping is appropriate? When do I think tipping is not appropriate? And why I'm aggravated with tipping culture as it exists in the United States. For those outside of the United States, we have something called tipping here, which is where a business will tell you, this costs $20, you give them $20, and they are mad at you that you gave them the amount of money that they asked for the product or service that they are providing you, because apparently their employees are not actually getting paid enough by the employer from the money that they are asking for. I personally think that if the employer is not able to pay their employees out of the money that they've accepted from you to provide that product or service, that they should simply raise their prices, or if they are already making enough money, just pay their employees an amount that where they wouldn't feel like they're being fundamentally ripped off or indignified by providing the product or service they're providing. But apparently that's crazy. What you're supposed to do is you're supposed to ask for this amount of money and then be mad when the customer actually gives you that amount of money. You paid $10 for a coffee. If you don't give them $11 or $12 or $15, you are an asshole. You are paying $100 for a cleaning service for your house because they asked for $100, and if you give them $100 instead of $120, you are an asshole. Something that makes it a little bit more frustrating is not only is tipping something where, again, it is very arbitrary how much you're supposed to overpay over what they actually asked for, it's also arbitrary to the industry. You could be dealing with a FedEx ground person who is delivering a package to your home. And in many cases, virtually most cases, nobody tips the FedEx ground delivery driver. That isn't really paid that well, but they will tip the person that brings their food to their table. It really doesn't make sense. It's very arbitrary who it is that you tip and who it is that you don't tip. I know somebody recently who happened to have a stroke, and they did not tip any of the people at the hospital, even the staff that were not making a lot of money, even the people that had the lower entry-level jobs. But again, the people that are responsible for saving your life, or even the people that are ancillary helpers to the people who save your life, get nothing, but the person that brings your food from here to here has to get something because they only get $2 to $4 an hour, as if that is the fault of the customer and not the garbage business that's only paying the employee $2 to $4 an hour. So I'd like to talk about when I think tipping is appropriate and when I think tipping is inappropriate or ridiculous. So I'm just going to give a couple of examples from my own business. These are real examples that I've had in real life. Let's say that my business is open from 12 to 8 p.m. Monday through Friday, and you come in on Thursday and you say, you come in at 7:55 and you say, I have all of my work on this device and I need it to be able to boot for tomorrow. I spilled something on it. I need all the data off of it and it has a soldered in SSD. Oh my God, what am I going to do? My cloud backup is too old. Can you help me? And I tell them, yes, I can help you. It would be, let's say, $300 to fix your problem. However, we close in 5 minutes and you have a meeting tomorrow morning at 7:30 a.m. and we don't open until 12 tomorrow. So this usually takes 2 to 5 business days. And they say, oh, then they tell me how important it is and they beg and they beg. And I say, okay, you know what? Fine, I'll help you out. Here's the thing. I'm going on a date tonight. There's a Broadway show at 9:45. I really need to be able to make that. So let me see what I can do. I've told them the price, which is $300. And after telling the price, I work on their device. I stay after hours at work. They know what they're doing is they're asking me to stay after hours at work. I stay after hours. I fix their device and I give them a call around 8:30 and say, hey, I know we're closed, but I know you needed this for tomorrow, so I got it to work for you. We fixed it, and you can come and pick it up. But I got to leave in like 15 minutes, so I'm not late for my date. So I really need you to come right now if you want to pick this up, or else you're not going to have it for tomorrow. And the guy shows up. Let's say instead of coming by in the next 15 minutes, even though he lives right across the street, it takes him a half hour to show up, damn near making me late for my date to meet her at the Broadway show. And when he shows up, he knows that he asked me to stay late. He knows that this is against my normal policy. He asked me to stay late, and he knows that he lives across the street, and he still took a half hour to get here rather than show up in the 15 minutes when it literally takes 90 seconds to walk that far to my store. And he gives me $300 without leaving a tip. In that case, I believe that person is being an asshole. You've asked me to go above and beyond for you. I went above and beyond for you. I provided you additional value over what you were paying for. You did not provide me additional value back. Now, I'm not going to be mad at you or anything. I'm not going to be passive aggressive, but I think that that's being kind of a dick. Now, let's give a different scenario altogether. Let's say that I had that exact same situation, but I told that gentleman, it usually takes us 2 to 5 days to perform what you're asking us to do. We close, it says we close at 8 o'clock. It is 7:55. We open again at 12 tomorrow. There's no way in hell this is going to be able to get done. If you're open to it for $50, I can put you at the front of the line and get started immediately. If I were to do that, there would be no expectation of tipping in that scenario, because in that scenario, I'm literally charging you extra money to go above and beyond, and you have accepted it. The third scenario that I'd like to go over here is one where I tell you it's going to take 2 to 5 days for that same job. You're okay with that. I do the job that I told you I was going to do in 2 to 5 days. You come and pick up. I ask you for $300. You give me $300 with no tip. That's totally normal. I should have come up with a business model that allows me to be able to pay my staff members off of what I charge you. If I'm not able to pay my staff off of what I charge you, that's a problem, and that's a problem with my economic model that you are not responsible for. Tipping is there for when somebody goes above and beyond. Again, if I'm willing to literally risk my date not being able to go out with me that night to this Broadway show because I fell for your sob story and I fixed your device immediately and I charged you nothing extra. In that circumstance, if I have gone truly above and beyond for you and you know that I close at 8 and you show up at 7:55 and you want me to have this thing done in 30 minutes for you, that's a scenario where tipping is appropriate. You've asked me to do extra. You've asked me to go above and beyond. Or another scenario where tipping may make sense. Let's say that you come in with a problem and you think that you have a $1,000 problem. You've gone to 3 other places and every one of them said you have a $1,000 problem. I open your device, I unplug your screen cable, and I notice that you bent the pin, like most people do on an A1398 or A1502 because they can't put the cable in properly. I use my tweezers and I bend it back together and I say, here you go. And they say, what do I owe you? And I say, nothing. I didn't replace anything. If you were to drop $20 in the tip jar at that point, I think that would be appropriate. I could have ripped you off. I could have told you the same thing that everybody else told you. I could have not put in but I decided to put in the extra effort to actually be honest with you and to figure out exactly what's wrong with your device. In that scenario, I think a tip, if I'm not charging you for the repair of 10 or $20, makes total sense. The problem with tipping is not having a tip jar. Having a tip jar in and of itself is not a problem. The issue is when there is an expectation of receiving a tip when you are providing me exactly what it is that you advertise. Again, if I'm asking you to do something over what you advertise, and I'm asking you to do that for the exact same price, sure, tipping makes sense. If you go above and beyond, tipping makes sense. But if you're literally doing the job that I asked you to do, and I'm paying you what you were asking me to get, I absolutely see no problem. I see no reason that I should be considered the asshole in the transaction. If you're not being paid enough for the job that you're doing, the only asshole in that transaction is your boss, because your boss is either doing one of two things. Behind door number 1, he's not asking me for enough money so that he has enough money to pay you. His economic model is shit. Behind door number 2, he is charging me enough money that he can afford to pay you more, but he continues to pay you $2 to $4 an hour anyway. It's one or the other. Either A, he's not charging enough money, or B, he is charging enough money, but he's keeping it all. One way or the other, that problem is between you, the employer, and your boss. It is not between you and me. I didn't come up with this economic model. I have nothing to do with this. I'm paying you what you asked for. And the issue that we get into here, again, is that there are so many jobs, because one of the excuses that people give is, well, this only happens for low-paid jobs. But there are a lot of jobs. Like, I remember the guy that was doing my FedEx deliveries, FedEx ground deliveries back in 2011 when I had my supply company. This dude was making $9 an hour. He was making $9 an hour in New York City. That's not a lot of money. That's really not a lot of money. And I asked him, he's never received a tip in his life. I wound up hiring him, and he worked for me for a year until it was time to move on. Never received a tip in his life. Carried insanely heavy boxes everywhere. But here's the funny thing. Third-party delivery companies very, very often will get a tip. It's almost expected. Again, if somebody is delivering something for you that is outside of FedEx or UPS or the post office, it's just so arbitrary. But above all, the biggest issue with this entirely is that we in America have this weird thing where the employee gets mad at the customer for not tipping. The customer gets mad at the employee for expecting a tip, and the employer, the person who created this economic model, for some reason gets off scot-free for creating an economic model that pits his employees against his customers and doesn't care. The agitation needs to be with the employer. Like, if you come to my business and you pay the amount of money that my employees asked you to pay, my employees are not going to be mad at you. To be clear, again, like I work in consumer electronics repair. There is only so much money you can pay people doing these jobs. My employees are not making $250,000 a year. They are not data engineers for Amazon. They are not high-end level senior software engineers. They are not building houses. At the end of the day, I can only pay so much. but they're not getting $4 an hour. They're not getting $7 an hour. They're not getting $10 an hour. They're getting paid something where if they were to start their own business for themselves and everything were to go well for them, they're making approximately, for that position, maybe 10 to 30% less than they'd make if they actually had built their own business from scratch and it went really well for the specific position that they are in. That's my responsibility. Like, it's not yours. And anybody that tells you that that is yours, in my opinion, is a crappy business owner who is abusing both their customers and their employees. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Just because something is normalized does not mean it is okay, does not mean it is right, and does not mean that it should stay that way. And if we want it to change, it starts with us. I'll see you in the next video. Bye now.